What's up, worldies? Welcome back to the channel. Glad to see you. Good you're here. And we have some stuff to talk about. Now, it's the end of the summer. We're about to kick off, or we already have kicked off, all of the different leagues across Europe, across Asia, across South America. Everything's starting back up again. We're getting back after it. But the one thing that happened after all of that is said and done is a bunch of guys and gals end up moving all over the place. They end up getting transferred. So today we're talking transfers. With the transfer window just wrapping up, it's gotten to the point where we're seeing all of the ridiculous sums of money that these teams are spending on players, both as a collective and individually. The other amazing thing is we're seeing just how talented some of these players that are leaving on free transfers can be. A lot of times when a player's contract ends and the team doesn't want to renew, they'll just let them go, other than try to pull them into a 1 year or 2 year contract and then send it off to another team. That's how some teams get some really good players for really cheap. For now, we want to kind of look at who's done well and who hasn't done well when it comes to transfer windows. Now, the Premier League being the biggest league in the world, supposedly, that's shown a lot of money being splashed all over the place. You saw players going to clubs and leaving clubs that you kind of scratched your head, and then you saw the massive amounts of money that these teams were willing to splash just so they could get one good player. Now, granted, one good player to a mid-table side might make all the difference. But when you're at the top of the league year after year after year, and you spend over $100 million just for one guy that doesn't necessarily make you better, looking at you, Man City, yeah, it's just kind of a, I don't know. Is it really worth it? A couple things to go over from the summer that really stood out in the Premier League. One of them being Arsenal. They spent a ton of money for players that are okay and decent, but at the end of the day, where are they standing in the table? They're at the bottom and they're doing awful. They're 20th out of 20. They haven't scored a goal in league play yet, and they haven't even bothered to show up for most of the match. They brought in Ben White, Aaron Ramsdale, and Martin Odegaard, while letting David Luiz and Willian go, as well as Hector Bellerin on a loan. Lastly, they sent Joe Willock to Newcastle for a hefty sum. And honestly, he was one of the better players that Arsenal should have kept. Arsenal spent just over 121 million pounds. All of that money is going to waste at this point. It's kind of funny and kind of sad, and it depends on how you feel about Arsenal, on whether or not you're okay with this. Personally, as a Manchester United fan for such a long time, and with us having such a strong rivalry with them for years, this makes me chuckle a lot. Aston Villa went out and spent £95 million to bring in Leon Bailey and Danny Ings. Now, this is fantastic for them because they get a goal scorer at the top who can put them away, that they can play alongside Ollie Watkins. And then they also get a great midfield defender that can do it all. Leon Bailey's fantastic. But on top of all of that, Aston Villa sold Jack Grealish for, only a record-breaking amount of money. 105.75 million British pounds sterling. It's like $140 million in American. It's nuts. Can you imagine being worth $140 million? Your existence, your livelihood, the whole reason you be is worth $140 million. That's a hell of an insurance policy for some feet. Because let's be honest, he ain't that bright. The whole crashing into a parked car when you're drunk kind of deal. Not smart. Villa's gonna do fine without him. They'll be okay. And honestly, the players that they picked up make it that much better for them. This is a fantastic deal for all sides, and I'm pretty impressed with what Villa's done considering they almost got relegated 2 years ago. Chelsea made money. They made £2 million. They somehow made money after spending £104 million for Romelu Lukaku. What? Why? How? How did that happen? How do you make money after doing that? Oh, I see. They sold Tammy Abraham to Roma. They sold Kurt Zuma, and they let Michy Batshuayi, Billy Gilmore, and Denny Drinkwater all leave. Yeah, that makes sense. Also, they brought in Saul from Atleti to shore up the midfield, to help out a little bit in some places that they might be missing some guys. Chelsea did a hell of a job over the transfer window, and honestly, I think it's probably the best job in the Premier League. Top 3 without question, but definitely, in my opinion, I think they did an even better job than Manchester United, who did fantastic when it came to this transfer window. Leeds is going to be interesting to look at moving forward. They brought in Junior Firpo from Barcelona, and they bought Dan James off of Manchester United, who, that's whose jersey that I have. It's alright, it's a good thing my name is James. Don't tell anybody. They let Alioski and Helder Costa go, but the talent that they've brought in, plus the athleticism that they brought in, will fit perfectly into Marcelo Bielsa's squad, and they're gonna have a great year considering the moves that they made and the money that they spent. Top 5 in the league when it comes to the transfer market. The biggest loser in the transfer market is Liverpool. The only player that they were able to bring in is Ibrahim Konate, who's a defender, but they didn't address several of the attacking deficiencies that they've had for several years. Also, Xherdan Shaqiri left, so that gives them one less attacking option moving forward. Jurgen Klopp was pretty pissed with the fact that everybody around them was making moves, yet he has to make do with what he's got, thanks to the Liverpool board. Look for them to make some moves in the January window, trying to play catch up with the rest of the league. Oh, Manchester City, you bunch of tossers. You bought Jack Grealish for an English record, and you let go of your greatest goal scorer of all time. That sounds like funny business to me. Now, granted, there were a bunch of smaller deals in which City let go of some players, they acquired some players to see how they're gonna work out, but it's gonna be interesting, all things considered, with Jack Grealish trying to enter into this lineup. There's been a lot of talk of Raheem Sterling leaving. There was even some talk of him coming to Manchester United before the Ronaldo transfer happened. And then there's also been some talk of other players such as Riyad Mahrez leaving, talk of doing a De Bruyne swap. I've seen a whole bunch of mess. At the end of the day, the first team and the second team for Manchester City are all interchangeable. They're all fantastically talented players. It's just going to be a matter of Pep massaging egos, managing to shift them around and keeping them on focus for another Champions League run and for another Premier League run, and whether or not he can accomplish that again with this team. Also, biggest flop of the year goes to Manchester City, with the fact that they chased after Harry Kane for almost an entire calendar year, and then they still couldn't manage to pull him off of Tottenham for a price that they were happy with. I honestly don't think that Harry Kane would have fit very well with Manchester City. I honestly don't think that he would fit very well in a lot of places except for Tottenham. I think that he's actually going to be one of the biggest reasons Tottenham makes a really strong push this season in all competitions. But the fact that Man City couldn't pull off the transfer means that they don't have necessarily the buying power that they thought they had going into this transfer window. They thought they were going to pull off the sweep with Jack Grealish and Harry Kane, and unfortunately, it's the red half of Manchester who's looking like the more savvy financial folks instead of the blue half. Speaking of the red half of United, CR7 is back, baby! Along with Cristiano Ronaldo finally coming home, Jadon Sancho and Ronaldo's former teammate Rafael Varane joined Man United to push forward this year and to claim the Premier League trophy that I predicted at the beginning of the season. It's happening, folks. This was a fantastic haul from a summer where we really didn't expect a whole lot of things to happen. We expected a lot of teams to be making moves around us and for us to be acting in a reactionary manner instead of being the ones on the front foot. We expected Harry Kane to lose outright from under our noses, who we're still very hopeful for, by the way. And we also expected a lot of the talent that we we're aiming for to go other places. Unfortunately, it looks like we've lost out on Camavinga to Real Madrid, but that's the one that, if that's our biggest loss of the transfer season, I'll take it. We loaned out a bunch of younger guys so that they could get match experience with other clubs, and then we sold Dan James. I'm sad about it. I thought he was a fantastic role player, and I thought he had a really good place in the squad. But when you sign Jadon Sancho and Cristiano Ronaldo in the same transfer window, there's not a lot of place in the attacking options for a 22-year-old kid who still needs to get a little stronger and still needs to put in some work towards his game. The other team that had probably the strongest transfer window besides Chelsea and Manchester United for me is Tottenham. And it's not necessarily who they bought or who they let go, but it's who they kept. The fact that Spurs were able to keep Harry Kane means that they're going to be competitive this year, and they're going to be pushing forward for trophies and for places in Champions. This is just a fantastic thing for them to have done, and then the added talent that they put in around them and cutting the dead weight on the other side of the ball makes Tottenham a very dangerous team. Because if you remember, I said in my Premier League video, Harry Kane was going to stay at Tottenham. What happened? What happened? Harry Kane stayed at Tottenham. I also said that Tottenham's going to be undefeated through the first 15 games of the season alongside Liverpool and Chelsea. So far, all three of those teams are undefeated. I also said United's going to win the league. Yeah, we're right there. Now, the one that I did mess up is West Ham, but we'll get to that later. Tottenham bought Bryan Gill and they bought Emerson Royal. Both of those players are going to improve everything about the club right off the bat the minute they step onto the pitch. They got rid of Toby Alderweireld, they got rid of Moussa Sissoko, they got rid of Eric Lamela. Those three players were great back in their heyday, but they are dead weight. And the fact that Nuno Espirito Santo now doesn't have to choose between them and somebody else that should be on the pitch, it's going to make Tottenham a more streamlined and effective attacking team, and is going to solidify them points in the future. The Premier League, everybody was all over the place. There was a ton of money spent with this transfer window. Almost $3 billion worth of money moved from one club to another in some sort of deal. Some of the biggest names in some of the other leagues around Europe include Camavinga. He's going from Rennes to Real Madrid for $31 million. Matheus Cunha, he's going from Hertha Berlin to Atletico Madrid for $30 million. Arnaut Danjuma is going from Bournemouth to Villarreal. Huge move for Villarreal, pulling a really strong player off of a side in the championship who's looking to move forward into the Premier League next season if they qualify. $25 million for him. Rodrigo De Paul from Udinese to Atletico Madrid, who did a lot of business this transfer window, a lot of business. $35 million, he gone. Antoine Griezmann, he's going from Barca to Atleti on a loan, possibly a 2-year loan. Technically, he's gonna be an Atleti player, but the parameters are a little weird with that loan. And then Luc de Jong, he's moving from Sevilla to Barca. Barca, with a fire sale, they dropped like 6 players just so they could fit within their financial regulations. A bunch of their players had to lose money on their contracts. It's a messy situation, but Barca's loss is everybody's gain. Tammy Abraham, we already talked about. Chelsea to Roma, $40 million. Holy shit. Fikayo Tomori, also from Chelsea to another Italian team, AC Milan for $29 million. Daniel Malin from PSV in the Netherlands, he's going to be playing at Borussia Dortmund for $30 million. Andre Silva from Frankfurt to Leipzig for $23 million. That only strengthens Leipzig, who actually are going to need to find a defender, since Sabitzer just went to Bayern for about $19 million. And Bayern's, obviously, they've won 8 of the past 9 years in Germany. So the fact that you've sent your best defender to the best team in the league, and in a league that you're trying to win, a little awkward from them. And then let's not forget about PSG and their entire haul over the summer. For these 5 players, PSG spent $60 million. Achraf Hakimi from Inter to PSG. Sergio Ramos from Real Madrid to PSG. Gianluigi Donnarumma from AC Milan to PSG. Lionel Messi from Barcelona to PSG. Gigi Wijnaldum from Liverpool to PSG. Oh, by the way, the last 4 of those guys, they cost this much, or this much. If you can see that, that means 0. They were free. 4 of the best players in the world, and you just got them on your team for free? Oh, wait. PSG, the team who 2 years ago was in the Champions League final and last year made the semifinals of the Champions League, and they already have Neymar and Kylian Mbappe. Somehow that just doesn't seem fair. Yeah, one of the best clubs in the world, honestly top 5 over the past 3 years, just got 4 of the best players in the world, including one of the all-time GOATs, one of the all-time GOATed defenders, and literally the world's best goalkeeper at the present moment, and he's only 22 years old. Shake my damn head. That don't make no sense. Yeah, I don't know how they managed it. I don't understand how they did it, but honestly, that is some of the best wheeling and dealing I've ever seen in my entire life. Another couple of guys who managed to leave on free transfers, Memphis Depay. He's going to Barcelona. He's already playing there. He's doing fantastic. And then also David Alaba is going from Bayern Munich to Real Madrid. That's definitely going to make Real Madrid a bit stronger in their defensive backfield and is going to give them a boost pushing forward for the La Liga title. We have 3 big names this summer that did not move. Obviously, we've talked about Harry Kane a bunch during the Premier League section, but we also had Kylian Mbappe, who was rumored to move to Real Madrid for $200 million. Yeah. You thought Grealish was expensive? Nah, not even close. Real Madrid initially submitted a bid of $180 million for Kylian Mbappe, and PSG looked at him and went, nah fam, we good. Then they submitted a $200 million bid, and PSG went, bruh. It looks like Kylian Mbappe is definitely going to go to Real Madrid next summer when the opportunity arises. However, his price, depending on how he does this season with Neymar and Messi alongside him, could fluctuate highly. If he has a significant injury, we're going to see $50 to $60 million come off of that asking price. However, if he plays to his potential and has a 40 or 50 goal season like he could, that price could go all the way up to somewhere around $300 million. Imagine paying a record Mega Millions lottery jackpot price for one guy. You thought the NFL salaries were stupid. Nah, fam. The other guy that didn't move this summer was Erling Holland. He plays for Borussia Dortmund, and he's blonde, and he's Norwegian, and he's 20 years old, and he's built like a flippin' linebacker. Actually, he's more built like LeBron James if LeBron James was like Norwegian and blonde. Honestly, Erling Haaland is a specimen. The kid could line up at wide receiver for any team in the NFL, and he could honestly line up at power forward and be helpful. So imagine that on the pitch playing soccer. Yeah, just, oh, and he's got the same touch as Messi. Just imagine that. That's dumb. It's like somebody took Ronaldo and Messi and made like a little blonde Norwegian baby with them. I don't know how you get that out of an Argentine and a Portuguese guy, but it happened. So Haaland's been the focus for several clubs, including Real Madrid, PSG, Liverpool, Man United, Man City, blah, 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 blah. All of them. All the good ones are looking at this kid. Manchester United got a chance to sign him next summer, and if we can get rid of a couple of other players and loosen up some of the space, it's a good possibility we could find ourselves spending about $150 million for this striker who's going to do absolute wonders. He's already scored almost 30 goals in the Champions League, and he's only played in the competition in 2 years. It's nuts what the kid can do, and he's going to be a generational talent without question. He's probably also going to help Norway secure a World Cup qualification here once qualifying's over in UEFA. One last thing before we go, we had a bunch of Americans that also moved clubs throughout the transfer window, a couple for some pretty pennies. It's not earth-shattering prices, not a lot of them were double-digit or even triple-digit in the millions, but hey, when you're getting sold for 6 or 7 million to a club in Europe to go play European soccer and you're 20 years old, you're doing something with yourself. Joshua Sargent played for Werder Bremen in Germany. He is now a Norwich City player for $8.5 million. You might have seen him. He's the curly redhead who scored some really weird and cool goals in the German Bundesliga. Tanner Tessman and Gianluca Busio both went to Venezia in Italy, while Brian Reynolds ended up at Roma from FC Dallas. Owen Otasoe went from Wolves to Bruges for $3.6 million. Conrad De La Fuente went from Barca to Marseille for about $3 million. And then the Gold Cup hero, Matthew Hoppe, went from Schalke to Mallorca for about $3 million as well. So big moves for everybody there. So big moves for everyone there. And also Caden Clark went from Red Bulls to Leipzig to go play for an American coach. He went for about $2 million. So all around, Americans moving all over Europe, making names for themselves at their clubs and doing really big things, helping push the sport further here in the States. Fantastic job, fantastic summer season. And honestly, this has been the best transfer window that I've ever seen, with some of the biggest names in the sport moving all over the place. It's been absolutely bonkers. So I want to thank you guys for coming and checking out the video. If you can, just go ahead right down there, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and turn on that little notification bell. It'll tell you every time that I upload. Also, big shout out to all you trolls and haters. Leave me some stuff down in the comments so you can let me know how I can improve for next time. Looking forward to the next video coming up. I'm going to review all the UEFA stuff that's going on. Also, if you'd like to, you can go over to my Instagram at TooFatForFooty. Go to my Facebook page, Too Fat for Footy. I've got it all settled up there. Gonna be dropping some awesome content. Gonna be starting streaming and hopefully a podcast as well. So if you guys want to check out all the goods that I'm gonna have on tap, go ahead, follow all those links, follow all those social medias, and then we're gonna get going. So until next time, worldies, keep kicking. For the best players in the world, and he plays for Borussia Dortmund, and he's blonde, and he's Norwegian. I had to think about it. Josh Sargent. His name is so hard to say. Josh